Okay, this is Dr. Martin's supplemental lecture on Chapter 25, Section 1. I'm going to introduce the last of the phyla that we're going to cover in our survey of the animal kingdom, and that is the phylum Chordata. A couple of features. This group actually includes the organisms that we know as vertebrates and some invertebrates that I'll talk about shortly. These organisms all share a set of, I believe, 4 features. And I'm going to list them here. And this diagram here is representative of a general body plan for a chordate. Number 1, this group, the chordates, have a hollow dorsal nerve cord. And that nerve cord will develop into the brain and the spinal cord. The term dorsal, remember, means toward the back. And so this structure right here is the dorsal nerve cord. A second feature is the presence of a structure that's called a notochord, which is a flexible rod that extends from head to the tail, and so it is a support type structure. A third characteristic is that when we look at the pharynx, we see a number of openings along the wall of the pharynx, and let me erase. In more primitive organisms, these are gills. In more advanced organisms, some of these structures become glands in the throat area, some become part of the jaw, and so on. But in this illustration, this would be the stomach. So what's shown in black is the digestive system. This structure right here is the pharynx, and these are the gill slits. Now, in more primitive organisms, water would enter through the mouth and then be pushed out through the gill slits, and the gills would be responsible for extracting oxygen and giving off CO2 into the environment. Okay, one last feature is that we see the presence of a tail that is positioned beyond the anus. And so this is sometimes simply called a post-anal tail. And so here's the opening from the digestive system. This would be the anus. So this structure right here is what we call post-anal tail, and it will have muscles, will develop vertebrae, and it'll be kind of an important structure in certain animal groups. All right, so these are the 4 features that are common to all of the organisms that are found in the chordates. Let's take a look at, remember I said that all of the vertebrates that you're familiar with are included in this phylum. In addition, there are some invertebrates that you're probably not familiar with, but because they have these 4 features, at least some stage of their life cycle has those features, they are more closely related to vertebrates than other groups are. So let's take a look at some of those organisms. We'll make this characteristic number 3. So examples of invertebrates in this phylum. There is a group of very small creatures that are called lancelets. One genus that you might run across if you go into biology, maybe in college, is a genus called Amphioxus. And these are very small filter feeders. They are called lancelets because they tend to be sort of spear-shaped. And so here we've got a bunch of sort of tentacles or structures that are used in filtering. These guys basically shove their back end into the sand, and they then feed by filtering out bacteria and so on that come to them in the current. There's actually a diagram and a picture in your textbook, figure 25-1, and I don't know how well you can see this, but these are some preserved Amphioxus. They don't look like much, but they actually are more closely related to us than some other organisms. All right, in addition to Amphioxus are the lancelets. There are a group mentioned in your book, so I'll mention them here. So that was A, Amphioxus. And B are a group that are called, common name, sea squirts, a more rigorous classification would be that they're called tunicates. They are also sessile. Well, they're more sessile than the Amphioxus. They kind of look like sponges almost. Their larva is a free floating organism, and between the larva and the sessile form, they do have the characteristics of the chordates. These are also filter feeders. All right, so let's go on to characteristic number 4, or point number 4. And so in point number 4, we're going to talk a little bit about the vertebrates. This is actually a subphylum Vertebrata within the phylum Chordata. A couple of features, well, two unique features. Number one, we have the development of a skull plus bone that are called vertebrae, and they form what you know as the backbone. The function of both of these structures is to protect the nervous system. So the skull is going to protect the brain. The vertebrae form ring-like structures, form a chain all the way up and down the spinal column, or spinal cord. So they're also there for protection. A second unique feature is the presence of an endoskeleton. This is in contrast to the arthropods that have an outer exoskeleton. The endoskeleton actually can grows with the animal. The more primitive vertebrates, the endoskeleton is composed of cartilage, but later on we see the endoskeleton composed of a stronger substance called bone. Okay. Let's go on to point number 5. And here I want to just want you to take a look at figure 25-4, which shows a hypothetical evolutionary sequence of the vertebrates. And I'm just going to list some of the important advances that are seen in the lineage of the vertebrates. So one of the first things that we see is the presence of jaws, which that's, I think, probably something new to you, but not all vertebrates actually have jaws. A little bit later on, as we work our way up the vertebrate lineage, we will see the development of hinged jaws, which allows the mouth to open much further, which increases the type of organisms that the animal can feed on. Okay, another advance is 2 sets of limbs. A little bit later on, we see the development of lungs. The development of legs, as opposed to 2 sets of limbs that have the same, or more or less the same function. We now have sort of a differentiation between the front limbs and the hind limbs. In addition, the development of a special type of egg was very important in the reptiles. In the mammals, the presence of milk for the young, as well as fur, and in the birds, the development of feathers. That was very important. Okay, that's all I want to say about Chapter 25, Section 1. What we're going to do on Tuesday, hopefully, is to introduce 2 groups of fishes and possibly the amphibians.